Uh, Hi and welcome. So this is my game for the CA1, and at first I'm going to talk about the initial idea, how this came, how this game came to be, some of the interesting parts of the code, things I wanted to include but didn't have enough time, and lastly things that just went completely wrong. And to start off, I just want to say that almost none of my code is mine. I watched a ton of tutorials on YouTube, sometimes multiple, on the same theme. Took what I wanted from those videos and changed some of the things in them. But yeah, basically none of the code is mine because I was literally learning as I was doing this game. Plus, there were, of course, things I learned in class as well. Also, another disclaimer. All the references to the tutorials that I used are in the README file and not in the code because I commented every single part of the code and I just felt like it's not very mm, you can't really see the code well at one point. So the initial idea was an UFO game, but after finding an asset that was Space Invaders inspired, I came up with this idea. So, the player is a ship, which is over here, and is trying to eliminate invading alien enemies, which are over here, here, and here. Um, and the player is trying to shoot them down and try not to die. The player can move horizontally and vertically, and can shoot down enemies, and then enemies uh, go boom and end up in an explosion. And every time you kill an enemy, you get 10 points. So, show you. This is the movement. Here you have the score. That every time you kill an enemy, you get the score. The lives, there's 3 of them in total. This is my game pause. This is one of the few panels that actually work. Yeah, and then there are the enemies. Um, the orange one does not have any bullets. The pink one shoots at you when you get too near to it. And then there's this green one that is the biggest menace. And as soon as it spawns, it starts following you around and just starts shooting at you bullets. Of course, unless you shoot it down. Uh, this was one of the things or parts that went wrong because the bullets kind of got stuck on the enemy, even though they were working just fine before. Not sure if it's okay. Yeah, not with this enemy. Oh yeah, here you can see it that it just kind of got stuck around it. It might be a collider problem. Yeah, I also added an enemy spawner. As you can see, there's like 5 spawner points in total. Um, I also tried to add a pause menu and main menu, but something went wrong again. Because as I was changing things around, the high score saver stopped working, and also my buttons were not clickable. And later I found out that I had an old input manager and that I needed to install a new one, so I did. And it did work again, but something went wrong in the process. So yeah, one of the things that I also wanted to include was an audio manager, but there is none because I was trying to figure out all the errors I had and just took it as a priority. So just to show you, this is how the main menu would have looked like. I also got rid of the not pause, the game over one because it went wrong and I just do not to include it. So yeah, we'll just show you the gameplay first and then I'll start talking about some of the interesting part of the script. So yeah, this is where the game over menu should pop up, but as you can see, there's none. So the script I chose to talk about is an enemy spawner, because I find it interesting. So to start off, we have the header spawn settings, which basically highlights the spawn setting um, in our code, in our inspect here, as you can see. Yeah. And then private game object enemy prefab is a reference to the enemy prefab in the script, and it will be accessible through the inspector thanks to the serialized field. And what is prefab? Well, it's like this special type of component that kind of allows us to reuse it in a project, and this prefab can be used like shared between scenes or other projects without it being configured again. Then we have the spawn rate, which is the interval between the spawns, spawn points, and then private and max enemies. That's the max amount of enemies that can appear in the scene. This is the current enemies counter. And now for the methods. Start is called before the first frame update. That's what we all know. Okay, and then we have invoke repeating spawn enemy spawn rate, which repeatedly invokes a method at a specified interval. The spawn enemy is the thing that is going to get invoked, and spawn rate is a delay before the first invocation in seconds, and spawn rate here is again the time interval between the subsequent invocations. Now, then we have other two methods over here. One of them is spawn enemy, which is responsible for creating new enemies. Then we have like if current enemies are more or equal to max enemies, return. So it checks if the current amount of enemies is more than the max amount. Then we have transform spawn point, random range, 0 spawn points length, which selects a random spawn point from an array of spawn points that we get over here, and it generates a random index within the range. Then we have game object spawn enemy equals instantiate enemy prefab spawn point dot position quaternion identity. So this creates a new instance of enemies. Spawn point dot position is literally the position that is where it's going to be created. Quaternion is the rotation, and this is what to get instantiated. That flying enemy script, enemy controller, spawn enemy dot get component flying enemy script. This retrieves a flying enemy script from the spawned enemy. Then enemy control dot initialize this is a method that initializes on the enemy controller. And then here we are tracking our enemies and spawning more of them. And then of course the enemy has to die as well, so this is enemy died method, and this gets rid of the current enemy that just died.